Welcome to Local Matters, the official Laverne podcast. I'm Anne Smith, Public Information Officer for the City of Laverne. And today I have with me Dr. James Sullivan from Rutherford County Schools. Thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So tell me a little about yourself and your background and kind of what you do on a day-to-day for Rutherford County Schools.
Yeah, so born and raised in Rutherford County. Grew up in Walter Hill, but spent, I can't tell you how many years attending Old Timers Day Festival in Laverne. I mean, I used to go. I've been a teacher at heart my entire life because I would remember going to Old Timers Day and just trying to see all the different groups that had pins because I wanted to collect all the pins they gave out every single year. So day to day, it is really just day-to-day operations of the school system. I like to consider myself the lead teacher. I try to lead with a servant's heart and really just the human aspect of our entire county. We're a huge county, 52,000 kids as of yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Right over 7,000 employees, so we're very close to 60,000 people that on a day-to-day basis we are serving.
For Laverne specifically,
Yeah.
I know that overcrowding is a big concern when it comes to our schools. So how is RCS planning for growth, and what are you doing to kind of combat those concerns?
And I think that is something that we always try to talk about, is that we're a county school system. We try not to just focus on different municipalities, but we know different areas have different concerns. I'd love to tell you Laverne's the only area that has growth concerns, but it is throughout our county. We had a board meeting recently where we're just finished one of our first full days of the school year, and we've added over 1,700 kids from where we ended last year.
Wow.
Anytime you're adding a full school worth of kids in 3 months during the summer, you're going to struggle with growth. From the Laverne aspect, we're actually outside of the high school, we're in better shape than we are in some other areas. We've rezoned some of Roy Waldron because we had two schools that were operating as one school in two separate buildings. Wasn't the best logistical item we could do, so we changed that, and that is now Simon Springs Community School. Laverne Lake is at capacity, but it's not over capacity. So that helps us in that area. Roy Waldron is much more manageable. Instead of being 1,300 kids, it's down to about 900 kids this year. Laverne Middle actually has more middle school seats available than any other middle school in our county.
Really?
We built an annex there. I don't remember if it opened in 2018 or 2019, 2020, sometime during that time frame. I looked at their enrollment today. They're at 1,150, and they can hold up to 1,500 kids.
Okay.
And so middle school-wise, we're doing well there. High schools where we're struggling across the entire county. Back in January, February of 2022, our school board sent 5 additions to the county commission to fund. 3 of them have been done so far. Laverne, we sent the design fees out in January to get that started. And then realistically, we need another high school on the north end. Not just Laverne, but the Laverne-Smyrna area. Because again, I know that it's easy. You work for the city of Laverne,
Right.
so I totally get that question. But we have kids that are living in Laverne that go to Smyrna schools, kids that live in Smyrna that go to Laverne schools. We don't view it as city lines. It's a county school system.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads to my next question is, do you have plans for new schools in
Absolutely.
the Laverne Smyrna area?
Yeah, so we know that we need first that addition for Laverne High School that should be moving fairly quickly. And then we have been looking at land, and we have to stop looking. We have to purchase something. The perfect piece of land would be on the northwest side of I-24, somewhere between Rock Springs Elementary and Rock Springs Middle. There's not a large enough tract of land that's buildable for us that we've been able to find. So we probably will have to go a little bit further south into Smyrna than we need to, but we have to get a high school started. Our problem, just like everyone else, is funding. We are not our own funding body, so we have to depend on others to fund our schools. So we have been asking for funds for years, but I want to thank our county commission because they have funded over $200 million in the last, 18 months. So things are moving in the right direction.
That's great to hear.
It absolutely is, yes, because we have not actually opened a school, because once you plan construction and all those different types of things, it takes about 2 to 3 years for a school to open. The last school we opened was Plainview, and that would have been in 2021.
Well, and COVID doesn't help.
It did not
COVID
help
did not
whatsoever.
help at all.
No, it didn't.
So like you said, I know that RCS is in the process of putting an annex in for Laverne High School. Where are you in that process, and
Right.
what is your expected opening?
Great. Yeah. We went, we approved design fees. We paid for that for ourselves by moving some of the county funding we had around in other areas. That was in January. Received county commission approval in February. We should send that out to bid. It's about a 7-month process to design. And so that should go out to bid hopefully in September, so that we can go and ask the county commission for funding in sometime around December, January, so that we could start next summer.
Okay.
It's about a 2-year process. It would be similar to Smyrna, and Smyrna High School's addition. Smyrna's addition is moving quicker than the additions at Riverdale and Oakland. So while we say 2 years, I'm a little bit more hopeful that it would be more like a year and a couple months than 2 years.
Okay. And that's start to finish.
Yeah.
That's when you open the doors and
Yep,
the kids can
it is.
start.
It absolutely is. I know we will receive some pushback. Laverne is what we have said and where we plan to go. Looking at the numbers yesterday, Blackman High School actually grew more than Laverne did. And so, again, that's what we have to look at being a county school system. Laverne's where we're going with our next addition. But I expect pushback because the Blackman area actually grew more than Laverne, and they were one of the 5 that is not being talked about getting an addition at all right now.
Right. Well, you have to serve. Obviously, I'm here to ask you about Laverne stuff, but you have to serve the county where the great need is greatest.
Yeah, yeah. But Laverne is definitely 100% where the addition is going. It's where the addition's going.
That's great. I know that the parents in Laverne will be happy to hear that.
Absolutely.
So like you said, also earlier this year, Roy Waldron was renamed for Robert Simon. Robert Simon, of course, was a very involved community member in Laverne. What needs do you find that Simon Springs will do for supporting the Laverne community? Yeah,
so that is definitely a unique school structure. We realized what we were doing wasn't working. First, by having Laverne Primary was a great school start, but it was only kindergarten and first grade. And so transitioning all your kindergarten and first graders then into the Roy Waldron Elementary School, you lost quite a bit. That sense of community where kids would have 6 years in an elementary school wasn't there. The connection between elementary principals and teachers, it was viewed as 2 campuses. So we changed it to Roy Waldron Annex and Main Building. That did not work at all because it was 1,300 kids split across 2 buildings. That just sense of identity didn't get any better. When we did our rezoning study and found that we had open seats in the Laverne area in elementary and middle, that was one of the discussions was around the old Laverne Primary building, knowing that our population is extremely diverse in Laverne and the needs of our English as a second language community is just absolutely thriving in that area, really across our entire county, but especially there. And so we wanted to do a couple things, and one of those being a kind of a newcomer that is brand new to English classes. And so we're in the middle of launching that along with a welcome center to be able to help families that maybe English isn't their first language to be able to understand how the school system works, enroll in the school system, and those different types of things. It does have a behavior setting as well. Right now, if you were in a behavior type class or got remanded from a Laverne school, you would have to go all the way to Smyrna West. And so we needed something on the north end as well.
And so for people who don't necessarily know what that means, like what kind of behavior aspects is it?
So a couple. One, we're putting a middle school and elementary school alternative school in that building. You would love to say that you don't need elementary alternative schools, but that's one of those things that you have to have. And so that is one of the things that we've done. If a kid makes a threat, does something that they shouldn't, bring something from home they shouldn't, or we have some parents who just request their kid to go to a smaller environment and they want a structured setting. And so that is very much an option that before now, people from Laverne or the very far north end would have to go to Smyrna West, Daniel McKee, and if you were in elementary school, you had no options whatsoever.
That's awesome to be able to provide that for families. Charter schools.
Yeah.
I know that's everyone's favorite topic, but are there charter schools in Laverne? And kind of maybe explain just a little bit what a charter school is for those who don't understand that.
Charter schools have 2 different ways to be authorized in the state of Tennessee. They are a public school, but they have to apply through an application process to their local school system. And so a school system has a very rigorous way of approving a charter school. We have one in Laverne, American Classical, and it was actually approved by our school system. So it is not a Rutherford County run school, but it is a Rutherford County authorized school. And so that school has their own board, they have their own operations. We're not involved in their operations whatsoever, but we do kind of have that umbrella of collaboration, discussion, so that we can have some input on how we work together. The enrollment, at least as far as I know right now, is not what they had anticipated. I think that does two things. One, it speaks to the strong schools that we have in our traditional Rutherford County schools. And second, sometimes when you have unknowns, it's hard to truly know what is going on. I have faith in its American Classical ACAR that they will do great and be another part of the wonderful umbrella of Rutherford County schools, but it just takes time to be known.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of parents who just don't understand what a charter school is, and they're kind of weary about enrollment too.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that. Especially we're unique in that most school systems that have charter schools are in school systems that are struggling, and we're not a struggling school system. So it's a risk that parents have to see, but there's definitely some rewards that charter schools can talk about.
What effect does that have on the school system for the Rutherford County school system, but also for the Laverne schools? Has there been a big effect?
No, not yet. I believe in being transparent. The biggest effect has just been a way that the funding is done for charter schools. Unfortunately, there's two state laws that operate funding. The one for traditional public schools, you're funded on last year's enrollment. So this year we will be funded on 50,700 kids, even though as of yesterday we're over 52,000 kids already. And so we're funding those kids strictly on our own without state funding. Charter schools are funded up front. Okay. And so since we authorized charter schools, 2 of them, we have to pay them up front even though we won't get the funding for them until the next year. That's the only true real negative. That's what has been our issue that you've probably seen publicly, is that the funding needs to be equal. We're both public schools. We need to be able to fund each other the same way. As far as enrollment, we were hoping that enrollment would be impacted, but based on yesterday's enrollment, we just continue to grow in a way that I'd have no idea how it's sustainable. Last year was only about 800 students, but to have grown almost that 1,700. And I do anticipate that number dropping some, because you have parents who maybe have moved out west and their school system hasn't started yet, so they haven't withdrawn their kid yet. But the enrollment drop from charter schools has not been seen whatsoever yet.
Okay. So kind of a fun topic is your school system underwent a large rebranding project.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about that and why you guys decided to go with rebranding and what you hope it'll do for your school system.
Yeah, so really it goes just down to having that identity of who we are as a school system. A lot of the push around charter schools and education savings accounts and vouchers was just around competition. Well, as a public school, then we are in competition for making sure we serve our students the best. We needed to have an identity of who we are as a school system, what we believe in, that valued our community and also valued where we're moving. Our previous logos were several decades old. Each director had come in and maybe made a little bit of a color change, but nothing else. And so we just wanted to kind of refresh who we were.
That's awesome. And I love it, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
We rebranded in Laverne 2 or 3 years ago now, but I love rebranding projects.
And
I
they're
think
fun.
That
they are fun.
They're very fun, and I think that they really serve the community if you do it right.
You're absolutely correct.
Well, is there anything else about the school system in Laverne or just the school system in general that you want to add? Anything I missed?
Yeah, I just think that a lot of times across the nation you can see negative things about public education, and that's just not who we are in Rutherford County. Whether it is Laverne, Eagleville, Smyrna, Murfreesboro, or within the county, we are one school system, and we're a thriving, achieving school system, especially for how diverse and how big we are. We are, is what most people don't realize, a top 100 school system for enrollment in the entire country. Most people do not realize that Rutherford County has more students than San Francisco Unified, Columbus, Ohio. We serve more kids than both of those school systems, and we still achieve, and we're proud of what we do, but we couldn't do without our parents and community.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. We've been talking with Dr. Sullivan with Rutherford County Schools. For more information on our school system, visit rcschools.net. Until next time, I'm Anne Smith. Thanks for joining us.